Well, it's inevitable. If you work on cars long enough, you're going to encounter a fastener with stripped out threads. Let me show you how to fix that using a Time Sert. All right, so this is our hole with the damaged threads right here. And that's actually an M7 1.0, M7 by 1.0 millimeter. And this thread's in and everything, but it actually won't get tight because it actually pulled the threads out with it. And so, yeah, when you tighten it down, it just keeps spinning around. And actually, when I look down in there, I can see where the threads actually ended. When I pulled this thing out, it actually had the threads, the aluminum like stuck in it. So I had to dig that out of it. Anyway, we're gonna fix it with a Time Sert. Now, a Time Sert's not the only kit that you can buy to do this. There are cheaper alternatives. This thing costs about $100 now. And it's $100 because it's, you know, it is the best for sure. These inserts are one steel piece. There's something else called a helicoil, which is just a coil of wire that's kind of shaped around, and that kind of forms your new threads. That is not the best solution to this. It would probably work okay in this scenario because there's not a ton of torque on this particular bolt. It's only an M7, but I just still go Time Sert anyway. There are cheaper sort of Chinese knockoffs of this that cost about $20. I saw one on Amazon, and that one even has some comments from people saying they used it to repair this exact thing, a stripped out bolt on their valve cover. So yeah, I mean, it'll work, but there were also comments there saying how crappy the tools were that came with it. So I decided not to try that. Now, let me talk about why this is so good. So the Time Sert, it actually comes with a pretty nice drill bit, mechanic length drill bit, protected. And it also comes with a tap. Now, this is a bottoming tap. That's different from a through tap. A through tap or a threading tap will normally be tapered at the ends. You know, it's kind of tapered to help you start it a little bit easier, but this is a blind tap, so it's flat on the surface. This is meant for tapping into a blind hole, a hole where there's like a flat bottom where the hole hasn't been drilled through into the open air. So you need a bottoming tap in order to do this. This tap size, it's not printed on here, but it happens to be an M9 by 1.0, I believe. So that is the tap that we're gonna need in order to make this hole bigger, or in order to thread this hole in order to receive this insert right here. In order to do that, first we're gonna drill the hole out. So this is obviously an M9 drill bit, or a 9mm drill bit, I should say. And we're gonna tap it. And then there's another tool. This actually will create a little chamfer on the surface right here. And that allows the insert an area to sit down into, because there's actually a lip on the surface of this insert. There's a lip on the surface, so that lip will sit down inside of that chamfer. There's another tool that's meant to actually drive this thing in. If you were to screw your fastener into this insert, you will find that it stops before it gets down all the way. And the reason that happens is because it's a little bit thicker right down at the edge right here. And what happens is, as you drive the bolt in, that actually expands the bottom, and that's what kind of the bottom expands and holds onto the sides of, you know, where you've screwed it into, and it sort of pins itself in there. So you don't need to use your bolt to do this, because it comes with an installation tool, and that's what we're going to use in order to do that, expand it like that. So that's the whole system, and we're going to do it. There's one more thing I want to point out. Remember how I said this is a blind hole? It doesn't go all the way through. We need to know how deep this is. So my calipers actually have a depth gauge on them. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna see how deep that is, and we'll lock it. And it's about 19.5 millimeters, which is actually really long. It's much longer than the insert itself, okay? Almost twice as long as the insert. So we've got more than enough room to do this, but this means that when we drill, we do not want to drill down all the way, because there's actually an exhaust passage right here. I think it wouldn't do much damage. There's nothing kind of underneath this, although the exhaust passage is actually kind of right there. So we want to be really careful. So this is the maximum depth that we could go before we start biting into things down there. And we don't need to go that low. So I will put some tape on this drill bit to kind of mark my depth and make sure that I don't go too deep. Okay. I have marked the drill bit, and I've made sure that the drill bit is longer than the insert, okay? But the drill bit is also, the marking is also shorter than the depth. That's important. So I'm going to lubricate this drill bit with WD-40. So here's the thing. It's important when you're drilling to make sure that you're doing it straight, but the hole itself is going to pull you straight. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to actually drill this thing off center. If you've ever had to tap out the center of a bolt, well, if you have, then you don't really need this video, but if you ever had to tap out the center of a bolt and use an easy out to get it out, you'll know that, if you get that hole off center with your pilot bit and then you try to enlarge it, there's no way to correct that. Like that next highest bit is following that pilot hole that you made. So it's really not as critical as you think it is, but just make sure that you don't go deeper than your tape. I think this is a better angle for you guys. See how fast and easy that cuts. That thing really pulls really, really fast, really well. Pulls a little too well, so you got to be real careful. All right, now it's time to tap. Now this tap is actually a fairly large tap. You're going to need a pretty big tap wrench in order to use it. So the problem with this particular tap wrench that I have is that there's not enough clearance to actually spin it around. It's actually going to hit the bottle of washing fluid that I have right here. So I could actually easily take that off and move it, but I think I'm going to use another tool that I have, which is actually really great. And it's this. This is a set of tap sockets by Lyle, and this one fits right here. This basically gives you a 3/8 drive. So now I can just use a wrench, stick that on, and we'll do the tapping. You want to spray the tap with WD-40 as well, and we will simply tap. This one as well, you want to make sure you're going straight. But it does also sort of guide itself. But with this one, you do have more of a risk of going sideways, so you got to pay attention on this one. It's good to go back, break your chips every once in a while. I can feel I'm hitting bottom here. There we go, very nice. Now, got a lot of chips in that hole and I want to get them out. But you saw this is, well, you can see this is an open engine right here. In fact, if you saw during my drilling, a little piece of aluminum fell and landed right here. I got it out, but probably want to cover this. I should have covered it, honestly. I will cover it when I blow it out with some air right now. I got to go get a plastic or a towel to cover this. Okay, here we go. See how much came out of there? Quite a bit. So you do want to cover things when you do that. I just went and cleaned the tap off well away from the car. And same with the drill bit. Now we're not done. In fact, we probably should have done that chamfer before we blew the thing out. Let's take a close look at this chamfer cutter. You can see that there is sort of a ridge. There's two cutting surfaces essentially. So this little ridge down here, that's where it stops. Okay, so it's just the top part that's going to do the cutting. So this is actually more of a cutting tool, or of a drill bit sort of, than a tap socket. So I think I'm going to use the drill, but go really slow. Okay. Did we get the chamfer we wanted? Oh, actually, we did not. See, I couldn't see it. I think actually I will do it by hand. Because I can see it a little better. Yeah, So a little light pressure. Okay. I think that looks good now. Then I'm gonna clean out the surface one more, the hole one more time. And now we are ready to install the insert. So I actually should have chamfered that before I tapped it. So you should probably do that in the reverse order that I did it. This is the insert tool. And what we're gonna do is put it down in there and bottom it out. See if we can bottom it out. The problem here is that there's still threads in the bottom of this hole. So I don't think I'll be able to, I might not be able to actually bottom this thing out completely. What we do want to do is sort of mark where the bottom is. And this might be a problem actually. We should have drilled as far down as we possibly could have to sort of get rid of as many old threads down in the bottom of the hole as possible. That way there would be nothing obstructing this driver from kind of touching the bottom of the hole. Unfortunately, it was never going to be possible to do that all the way because that drill bit is tapered right at the tip. But we could have maybe gone a little bit more. I just didn't want to cut into the bottom of the hole. That's the whole issue. So what we should have been able to do is bottom this tool out and then mark where that bottom is. And that way you know where to stop this tool, because you don't want to bottom this tool out completely on the bottom of the hole. That actually, I think, makes it difficult to get the thing out. So unfortunately, I think we're just gonna have to, sort of wing it. I'm gonna mark this tool the tool anyway, and I'm gonna compare that to the depth gauge on my calipers that I did earlier. Yeah, you know, we got mostly there actually. Let me show you this. So here's the depth gauge, and here is how far I was able to insert this driver tool. So almost all the way to the bottom. In fact, I think what you see there is essentially the tapered part of the drill bit, you know? That's sort of this, the tapered end of the drill bit that really wasn't gonna cut threads anymore. So I think we did as good as we possibly could, given that situation. So what we're gonna do is oil the insert with motor oil. I'm gonna use it to insert the insert. Make sure our threads are good. And they are good. Let's see if we can get this started. And we can. Very nice. So eventually it's going to get tight. It's going to get hard to go through. You see where my mark is. I'm gonna go up until my mark. I actually blew right past the point of like feeling where it was too tight. So that kind of came pretty easily. And there we go. Our threads are repaired. And now we can put our bolt back in. Done. Well, I hope you liked the video. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, all that. Thanks for watching.